What's going on, everybody? Wow, let me start that again. What's going on, everybody? Nick at the Long Haul Fitness Podcast. Today, I got my boy Brad on, Brad Puglisi. It's been a hot minute since we've talked. Actually, we text every now and then, but how you been, man? How things been going?
Good. Things are going great. Really, I mean, nobody's working right now down here still because of the virus. So it's just eat, sleep, train, which I can't complain about.
Yeah. When did Kajaks open back up?
He probably 3 weeks ago, he texted, we were back home at my parents' place, and he texted us and was like, if you guys want to come, I'll let you in the back door. Like,
Nice.
he just texted a few people. So it started off like him just letting in like 5 or 6 people. And then now he pretty much every member can come, and we just pull around back and use the key under the bar.
It's in the middle of fucking nowhere. And aren't the cops that like work in the area, aren't they members?
They're members. They show up and you can see them in the gym and stuff. So.
Yeah, dude, whatever, man. This whole thing is ridiculous. But yeah, it's cool to see you guys back in there. That's one of the big reasons that I wanted to talk to you and bring you on here, just because of I've watched you kind of come up in this since you moved to Greensboro and you and Liv started going to UNCG. I remember when you started coming around the first time I saw you, I was like, who's this new fucking guy that's kind of big? And then Liv was already in really good shape at the time too, and y'all are both training really hard, and just the transformation that you've made in the short amount of time has been insane. Like when I met you, you were probably like 220-ish, maybe?
Not even, 215.
Yeah. But in what, you're like 250, 260 right now?
255, yeah.
255, yeah. So, I mean, it's been really cool to watch that. Because you're how old? You just turned
21.
21, right? Yeah. So I'm 6 years older than you. So I'd been kind of doing it a little bit. I'd been in Greensboro for a while. I kind of thought I was cool and whatnot. And then here comes this other dude who starts kicking my ass and all these lifts and shit. I'm like, what's going on?
That's my passion, is kicking people's asses on lifts.
Hey, damn straight, man. You got super strong. The only thing I had on you for a while was presses, but I think I got fucked.
Yeah, you can press like a motherfucker.
Yeah,
I think I orchestrated that car accident, so you wouldn't be able to press more than me.
I fucking knew somebody was behind it. That's what. But yeah, so I want you to kind of talk about how you like to train and what your training philosophy is. A lot of people may not know who you are or what you do, but when they see your training videos, they can tell that you're really putting a lot into this. I mean, just from the outside looking in, you're giving your all in each one of those sets. So I just kind of want you to talk about that a little bit and explain it to me like I don't know what I'm talking about.
I mean, the simplest way I could put, I mean, it's complicated. A lot of thought goes into my training process, but the simplest way I could put it is low volume, high intensity. So absolute bare minimum volume that I can do to get the most amount of results. So, I mean, that's what that looks like on paper, is really not more than 2 sets per exercise. And you tell a lot of people that and they're like, what? Like that can't be enough. But I mean, that's not counting warm-up sets. So when I'm warming up, all I'm thinking about is priming my body for a top set, and that top set is everything. Like it all is preparing myself for that top set. So that's what I'm tracking every time I train, is the top set, and then I'm progressing that every time I lift. So if I'm training, say, a push-pull legs, each leg day or each day will have a and a B variation, and for each of those lifts, I'm tracking the top set of the lift. Right. So when I come back to the next session, I'm gonna beat that top set, whether in like slightly more weight, putting on a 5, or beating it by reps. And I just follow that. And I mean, it hasn't steered me wrong yet.
Right. Yeah. I kind of do the same thing, but I've had to work around just some issues, like the shoulder and whatnot. So that kind of thing is definitely still incorporated in there, but it's just kind of tweaked a little bit. But the mentality that it takes to do that kind of training is like the thing that's overlooked the most. You know, people are just like, oh, he's naturally strong, or, oh, he takes drugs, or, oh, this, like, there's always an excuse. And people don't really think about like what it takes to get under a weight you have never handled before, or something that, like, it's pretty fucking scary looking at anything over 3 plates. I mean, even 3 plates to get a little like, all right, this is starting to get heavy now. And I mean, like, what's the most you've done for squats, like barbell squats?
For like, not a 550 for a set of 8.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're stupid strong. That's a lot of plates on there. So just the mentality that it takes to get under something like that and not be like, this is going to kill me, is an aspect that's overlooked a lot. So how do you think you found that?
How do I think I found that style of training, or how do I,
So just
how
that,
have I found that
how did you,
ability?
where did, yeah.
I mean, I've always trained intense, man. Even like before I was bodybuilding and sports, I was always the one that was, would stay after practice, would go to the field at night and shine a light with my headlights and like practice kicking balls and run sprints and stuff. So I've always I've never been afraid of work, but
yeah.
I mean, I feel like it began with me training low volume, because I feel like that's the most efficient way to train. And once I train low volume, that unless you train balls to the wall 100%, you're not going to get the most out of low volume training. Right. So if I know I only have 1 or 2 sets, I won't let myself sandbag a set, because it's your only chance. You know what I'm saying? So it's you're kind of putting that limiting factor on yourself by saying you only have these 2 sets. And then if you're strong enough, you'll end up training that hard anyways.
Right. For sure. Is something I've started doing recently. Like I do the similar thing of like trying to do more weight or trying to do more reps. Do you put any thought into, say you use the same weight and hit the same amount of reps, but you were able to execute those reps better, or you're able to feel it better? Do you make any kind of note of that? Do you call that progress? Like, what do you consider?
Yeah. Well, obviously the goal for everybody should be to standardize the form as much as possible, because otherwise progressive overload is just shooting in the dark. Like if you bench with sloppy form the next week, but get 5 more pounds, it's not, I wouldn't call that progress. So standardizing your form is really the only way that progressive overload training works. But I will, like in my log book, because I log every set, I'll make a note. If one set was particularly sloppy, I'll rate it out of 10. So I'll do like, okay, this week I got blah 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 for 8 reps. I would give it an 8 out of 10, perfect execution. And then the next week I look back and say, okay, I only got 8 again, but I would say that's a 9 or a 10 out of 10.
Right.
So that's one way to get progress. And when progress begins to stall a little bit, when you're not making big jumps every week, that's when I really dial in on those little things. Yeah. But if I'm flying with strength and everything's tuned in, then usually I'm still making reps and weight jumps every week.
Right. And that's something that I think more advanced people are going to pay attention to anyways, with like how you're executing the reps. Because I mean, when you're first starting out and first learning this, like you don't have the same connection that you or I have with doing these exercises, like it's every single time you should be trying to feel that muscle. And then once you're able to manipulate that to where you can now contract certain parts of the muscle, that's when you can kind of play with that, I feel like. But I feel like that's an often overlooked aspect of progressive overload. Like at least again, from like intermediate to advanced lifters, I wouldn't say that a beginner needs to be like, oh, I feel like I felt that more. I mean, and track that as progress.
A lot of time is wasted on squeezing, for beginners.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I think a lot of that's important as well, because the squeezing does allow them to make the connection, but it's when they don't take that connection and then try to apply it to strength. Definitely. Like they're not trying to.
You can get lost.
Right. So
you can get lost squeezing a 15-pound dumbbell for
exactly
6 years and never grow.
Yeah, but if you can take what I've always told people is like, if you can take that same squeeze with that 15-pound dumbbell and now use a 50, the amount of tension that you're going to get and the amount of breakdown in the muscle is going to be it's going to be so much more. So that mind muscle connection is definitely a lot. And is that Liv?
Yeah.
Liv.
I'm coming.
Hey, what's up?
I'm making cookies.
Cookies? What the fuck? Yeah.
No, they're not cookies.
Got cookies on your diet now?
Yeah.
But a big thing that you touched on in that was form, and just how important getting that form is. Something that I do every so often, like once I get to a point where like either I'm stalling or weight is like really, really heavy, I'll sometimes take a step back. Like if I'm getting to the point where it's really heavy and I can't feel it, or my form is a little off, I'll take like a time period where I back off, go lighter, and focus on getting that connection back, getting that form down, and then starting to progress back up that way.
Yeah. I'll do the same thing, because if you get I mean, it's bound to happen if you get carried away with chasing numbers.
Yep.
Eventually, it's just going to be you can turn a leg curl into a powerlifting movement because it's so ingrained in your head. I have to go heavier. I have to get more reps.
Right.
So yeah, when I'm noticed that I start to stall around like a 6 rep range and I'm not really feeling it like I should be, I'll go back up to a 12 rep range for 6 weeks and get really strong in a 12 rep range. You can progressive. That's what nobody gets is you can progressively overload in any rep range. I'll do a 30 rep set and progress that every week on a leg press, the same as I'll do a 6 rep set on a fucking barbell press, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And it's not like there should always be a little bit more on each one, you know, like, and it's not 1 week you do 225, the next week you do 315. Like it doesn't need to be done like that.
Yeah.
People, I feel like a lot of times what people forget is that there are 2.5 pound plates, and 2.5 pound plate is still progress over.
Yeah, that should be the most used plate in the gym, man. If you add a 2.5 to each side every week for a year, I mean, what kind of gains are you gonna make? You know, it's all about consistent small progress.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I have to do those kind of deloads as well because my joints start to get like I gotta let my joints back up a little bit before they start to get angry, especially this damn left shoulder, man. I think ever since that car accident, it has not been the same. But luckily, I can still do the dumbbells pretty well.
Yeah, that's a good opportunity where I don't necessarily, I rarely have to do a deload because you know I don't really get I'm still young, I don't really get the really bad joint pains. But when I do start to notice little things, then that's when I'll move to a higher rep range. So if I'm doing my shoulder's starting to hurt on the shoulder press. For the next 4 weeks, I'll do a 20 rep set and I can still progress that. I'm still growing. I'm still getting stronger, but it's safer. And I mean, it's just as effective. It really is.
Yeah. And I think people forget, like they get so locked into that 8 to 12 range because that's the ideal hypertrophy. They forget about like, I wouldn't go any lower than 6 for muscle building purposes. But you can go, Don Long had me doing squats for sets of 30. Like, you can, and I got up to the point, like he had me doing a set of 30, 25, 20, 20. And I got up to like, I started off to where I could barely do 225 for 20, but by the end I was doing 275 or 295 for 20 fucking reps.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guarantee you, your legs were huge.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And like, you can do that with anything. And I think people, again, just get locked into that 8 to 12 or that 10, you know,
the building range and the toning range. It's all bullshit, man. It's all about it's about how many motor units you're tapping into. And I mean, in a 6 to 10 rep range, all the reps you're going to be tapping into a higher level of motor units because it's a heavier weight. But once you get to rep 27, 28, 29, failing at 30, I mean, you're tapping into the same motor unit. So, I mean, it's just going to failure is going to failure. And as long as you're progressing that failure point with weight or reps, you're going to grow, like no matter what.
And like you should move in and out of these rep ranges. I feel like you can take a time period where you go like 12 to 15 and then you go down to 6 to 8 and then you jump up to 15 to 20 and like do those kinds of things right there. And people just seems like they're just trying to add more exercises to get more out of it. And at some point you just start spinning your wheels. So with your low volume style, how many different exercises are you doing like per muscle group?
Typically I like to say back, for instance, I usually don't go over probably 10 working sets. So, I mean, I could split that out however I want, but sticking to how I like to train, 2 sets, a loading set and a back off set. I mean, that ends up being 5 exercises.
Sure.
And that's the great way about lower volume. You're still hitting absolute failure. You're still training hard and you're still progressing your lifts, but you can do a lot more exercises rather than the person who's doing 5 sets every exercise, doing 3 exercises. You know what I'm saying? So it's still the same amount of sets probably will work, but I'm splitting it up over 5 different exercises and getting the benefits from each one.
Right. Now, when you're going in and doing your training, are you doing the same exercises in the same order for X amount of time, or are you kind of picking similar things and going that way?
Yeah. I spend a lot of time just like pen and paper programming to where I have everything. I know exactly what exercises work for me. So my training, my push-pull legs or what I do push-pull legs most of the time. I have an A and a B of each, and the workouts are structured the exact same every time I hit them. That way everything's standardized. So I'm hitting shoulder press 3rd, and it's the same every time I do it. So nothing changes. There's no variables other than my own recovery that can affect whether or not I'm progressing. So I'll do that until, one of those movements begins to stall, or I begin to not like it, or I start to get, little injuries from it. And then I'll swap one movement out at a time, but I'm never doing completely different workouts every time I go into the gym. I just don't think that's the most efficient way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the exact same way I do it. And then typically what I'll even do is keep those as long as I'm still feeling them properly and like I still feel like I'm getting something out of them. I'll keep them the exercise is the same, but I'll manipulate what my reps are or what the focus is and that kind of thing. So I think the way I used to train when I was younger, and I feel like a lot of people do this now, is just like show up, do some shit that works the muscle that you're trying to hit in whatever order, and like get a pump, But like you said in the beginning of this, is like it's all about standardizing the process, and that's why bodybuilders so often are called boring. Like, oh, you do the same thing day in and day out, this and that. You eat the same thing all the time, and it's like, yeah,
everything we do is boring.
Reason. There's a fucking reason. Like, and that's with anything. I mean, with a business, like something you're trying to build that way, like you've got to do the same thing day in and day out, year after year after year.
It's all about how many perfect days can you stack on top of each other, and that's going to determine how far you can go.
Right, exactly, and that's what I think that's where a lot of people really lack, where they lose. What was the word? Their progress. They're so used to just doing whatever, and they're not. Folks, they might have made a little bit of progress here and there, but it hasn't been much because there's no consistency. There's no like regularity to it. There's no plan or execution. And like, that's the way I used to train. And it got me to a certain level. I mean, it got me to almost to where I am now. I only stopped doing that like 4 or 5 years ago and really started to focus on this kind of program execution. And it can work, but after a while, it'll like, you're going to start to spin your wheels and you're not going to know why. And you're not going to be able to like, you can't if you add more exercises, it's not going to work. You do more reps, it's not going to work. You're going to do more sets, it's not going to work because you don't know. Like I always explain to people, like if one week I do incline dumbbell press and then the next week I come in and do hammer strength incline press, it's not the same. It's not the same movement. So I can't say, all right, I did the 130-pound dumbbells and I did 3 plates on each side on the hammer strength incline. So that's 135. So I'm in progress. It's not how that works. And what goes into your choosing of these exercises? Like, how do you decide what you want to use?
I mean, a certain like understanding of biomechanics is just like necessary. Like you have to know what angles effectively train muscles the best. So, I mean, if I'm, going into a back workout, I know exactly what angle I need to hit for my lat, what angle I need to hit to work my upper back. And from there, I just go, okay, which exercise am I going to be able to use the maximum amount of load, feel it the best, and control it the most?
Right.
So, I mean, anybody who trains for a while is going to have those movements where they're like, all right, that works for me. I can get strong at that, be safe, and, it feels good.
Yeah, for sure. I know some of the same people we follow. There's this debate. I think I actually just saw a post today, Eugene Teo talking about the difference between like a barbell back squat and a hack squat and why he doesn't see a reason to barbell squat. What are your thoughts on something like that?
Yeah, barbell squat's one of those that you get villainized immediately if you say it's useless. But I mean, from a pure muscle building standpoint, unless you're built with, just the right structure for a squat to work for you, to go like to be able to squat with a very upright stance. That's really the only way you're going to get a lot of quads out of it. Most people, it ends up being a hip movement, which I mean is great for glutes and great for hamstrings. But for most people, the squat is a quad movement. So I think purely on paper, it's really not that great. I think a Smith squat, something that can keep you upright, or a hack squat is going to be a lot better for quads.
Yeah.
People have puppy in the back.
Oh yeah. When did y'all just got the puppy, didn't you?
Yeah.
How's that been?
Monday. It's like having the kid, to be honest. She's been waking up like pretty much regularly every 3 hours around the clock. So
yeah, well, I'll be able to tell you.
Yeah.
I'll be able to tell you here soon what it's like to actually have a kid.
Oh yeah, you will. I keep forgetting about that. That's wild, man.
Yeah, it's a crazy situation, man, but I'm excited.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine having a puppy right now. I mean, Marley's already a pain in my ass, but he's passed out right now. But yeah, it's funny that you say Smith machine squat because I love a Smith machine squat, but you tell somebody that you're doing
pussy
squats,
yeah,
they're like,
pussy.
Fuck off. It's like, okay, you go ahead and put 3 or 4 plates on that motherfucker and tell me if it's not heavy shit.
Training hard is training hard. A machine doesn't dictate how hard you train. You know,
right? Exactly.
Taking a set to failure on a Smith machine is just as hardcore as taking it to failure on a barbell. So there's nothing inherently hardcore about a free weight.
Right.
I mean, they have their merits, but I mean, if you're trying to train effectively, you got to know, what works for your body and what doesn't. And if a barbell squat's just not a good match for you, you get knee pain, you get a lot of glute growth and not a lot of quad, then it's probably a good idea to swap it out.
Right. Yeah. And the thing that I like about a Smith machine squat or a hack squat or whatever is I'm able to worry less about keeping myself stable or the weight crushing me or whatever. And I'm able to use that machine's like plane to travel to like keep everything locked in and focus on the muscle that I'm trying to work. Because at the end of the day, bodybuilding is not, they're not going to ask you how much you squatted when you got on stage. Like, why does it matter if you're doing a barbell or a Smith machine if you're working the muscle that's supposed to be worked?
For sure.
So how are you rotating your push-pull legs right now? Because I mean, I'm doing a push-pull legs the same. Like I'm doing that routine. How do you rotate yours throughout the week?
So right now, I'm working around that hernia, so I can't really heavy squatting and heavy deadlifting is out. So that kind of changes how I structure my program, because usually I like to structure it to where it's a push-pull leg variation where I can fit heavy barbell rowing, deadlifting, and squatting in the same week. So that's a modified one, but the one I'm running right now is a push-pull off legs off. So it's an off day before and after legs.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And each one is an A and B variation. So there's a push A, and then the next time I come around, it's push B, totally different exercises for each one.
Right. Yeah. That's how I ran mine too. And then the when I had the time to do push, pull, legs, rest, it would vary. So like one day would be a higher volume and one would be the heavier day. So take a little bit off the joints, take a little bit off the CNS, and then that way you could manage the recovery a little bit better as well. But the way I've had to do it recently is I really only have time to train 4 days a week right now, because I work in 3 hours over here and I'll be out till 3 a.m. I wake up at 7 to go back to work. I have to work for a few hours. I'll come home and sleep and then go to work again Friday night and Saturday night.
Brutal.
Yeah, it's been miserable. So like the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I typically take off unless I just randomly feel good on a Saturday. So what I've been doing currently is like 1 week I'll do push, pull, legs, push. So I've got 2 push in the same week, and then the next week will be 2 pull in the same week.
Okay, yeah.
Because my legs have always been like a genetic strong suit, so I'm not too worried about them going away, and they respond fairly easily. So just I can get away with 1 in the week right now, and I would much rather continue to focus on my upper body, because my back and my shoulders are definitely a big area that I need to improve. So that rotation has been really good there, but I tend to like to have at least 2 push and 2 pull in the same week. And then I've just been rotating volumes every training time. So
smart.
Yeah. So those cluster sets we talked about a few weeks ago, I've incorporated those in, but I'm not doing them every week. So it's like every third or every other week, I've got a day where I do that cluster set. I've got a day where I go all out failure, and then I have a high volume day. So that way there, it's been helping out a lot with like injuries. I'm not as beat up anymore. And then my shoulder feels better, except for the tweak I had today, but we won't talk about that. it's funny whenever I know you get asked all the time, like, hey, when can we train together? And
Oh yeah, yeah,
I've been asked that like so many times over the years, like as I've gotten bigger and as I've gotten stronger. And I learned after a few times of saying yes, like most people aren't trying to do what I'm doing or can't
yeah,
hang or
yeah,
just going to drag me down, not necessarily on purpose, but just because they're not putting the same intensity and focus into
yeah.
the training routine. But you were one of those people that I could always count on to like make me feel like I wasn't working hard enough.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's how it should be, man. Yeah.
right. So I would say in the almost 10 years that I've been training, there's been 3 people I've been able to train with. It's you, Adam, and Tristan. And
Mhm.
I mean, out of all those, I would say you pushed me the most when we would be able to link up
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's one
That's what I love, man. I love just
oh,
like
sure.
hard training, man. That's
Yeah.
something that's just like, it's not as popular nowadays, but that's the core of everything we do, man. It's just real fucking dirty, hard training, man. And that's everything. If you can do that, you can make so much progress. But that's the most important thing I think everybody needs to have, is the ability to just really just get nasty and push really fucking hard in the gym.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I wouldn't even say that it's not that popular anymore or like non-existent, but I would say that it's just not what gets likes, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Unless,
absolutely.
unless you're someone like trained, like, unless you're fucking trained by JP, moving the kind of weights. Yeah, exactly. Moving the kind of weights he's moving, like an all out failure set for most people isn't going to be that cool. So it's the fluffy stuff that they do at the end where it's like a weird angle and
Yeah.
high reps and whatever that gets put on Instagram. And that's now what people think is training. I think that's a little
Yeah,
bit
and it's backwards, because I mean that kind of stuff is damn near useless for a beginner. I
yeah.
mean the beginner should be focusing on, the basic lifts, getting strong at those, and I mean the different angles with the cable and the weird little things that everybody posts just to like have a unique video to post. I mean that's the stuff beginners are seeing and saying that's what I must do, but I mean it's steering everybody wrong.
Right. At the end of the day, it's a marketing thing because
Yeah.
like again, we get asked some ridiculous questions. And like I'm sure there's been many times where people like, hey, how do I target this part of my bicep or this part of my chest or like whatever, you know what I'm saying? And versus us saying, hey, just get strong at your basic exercises and it's gonna show up someday.
Yeah.
They're like,
you want a bigger
this
upper chest,
this
get a
angle,
bigger chest.
this fucking thing, and this attachment, and like it's a marketing thing. It grabs people, and that's why it's so popular. I feel like,
definitely.
But there's thankfully people out there who do have a big following, like Jordan Peters and what that needs to go away. Anyway, sorry. Zoom just popped up and completely derailed me there. But yeah, it's just it's not the pretty thing that sells, of like, hey, try this piece of equipment or try this, whatever, So now let's talk about nutrition, because the type of training that you're doing requires probably a lot more than people understand with nutrition. So what are you doing with eating right now? Are you growing still, or are you coming down?
Right now I'm doing an aggressive mini cut. So I'll do kind of how I structure my year really is I'll push up in a growing phase until the body fat is just at a spot where if I were to push anymore, it's kind of out of control. So a little too much body fat. So once I get there, I'll aggressively mini cut down for 4 to 6 weeks, I can drop up to 20 pounds in that period of time, and then start climbing right back up, and just repeat that process over the span of a year. I mean, you keep putting together those 12-month growing periods. After a year, next thing you know, you put on 20, 30 pounds of muscle.
Right, for sure. And I mean, I think that's one big thing that's allowed you to make as much progress as you have, to go from 215, 210, whatever it was, to up to, I mean, you've been almost 270 before,
270, right? Yeah, I've been 270. And I mean, an important thing to notice, I don't want to go off on a tangent about competing right now, but
do it.
An important thing to notice right now, or to talk about, is don't compete. You don't have to compete every year. Don't compete unless you're happy with your size. So many people say, okay, I only have this 6-month off season, and I got to it's show season again. But I mean, it takes years to really put on the muscle that you'll probably need to do well in a show.
Yeah.
So I mean, don't get sucked into the summer shredding thing. Don't get sucked into I got to compete this year. Just take the time, grow, and then when you're at a spot where you're really like, I'm happy with my size, then compete, and then you'll have a chance. Because otherwise, you're just wasting your time, man. That's valuable growing time. If you're taking 4 months out to do a prep, that's a lot of money wasted. That's a lot of time wasted, and that's all time you could be spent growing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the biggest thing is people just get like excited, you know. I mean, because it's cool.
Off season can get boring, man. Yeah, it's grueling. It's stuff in your face, you know, doing the same lifts for 6 weeks in a row, getting stronger. I mean, it's boring, but I mean, that's the work that nobody sees. But that's the most important. That's bodybuilding, man. That's the most important part.
You're right. Yeah, and I tell people all the time, and I get weird looks and laughed at when I say that the off season is probably the hardest part of the bodybuilding thing, because it's not easy to grow. And like, I don't know about you, but the way my body is, like, I've been eating a shitload, not recently. I mean, I've been on a cut for like almost a month and a half, but like when I was growing, I was eating a shitload and barely gaining. Like I was gaining, but it was just slow. Like my body did not.
It's miserable, man. Yeah, it's miserable.
And it's like you're stuffed. You don't want to eat, and you're like, it's time to fucking eat again. Like and then you're tired. Like you don't really always like how you look in clothes. Like you walk up the stairs and you're out of fucking breath. Like there's all these things about the off season, and then not having that set goal of a show in an off season period is often difficult for people to keep that motivation going, you know? So what do you do? What do you do to keep yourself going in that off season? What do you focus on that keeps you excited and wanting to go work out?
That's definitely where, I mean, I love getting stronger, making progress in the gym. That's my absolute favorite. I would train if my body didn't change at all. Like I just love training, getting strong. But I mean, that's why those mini cuts are so important to me, because like at that 12, 16 week mark where you're at the top peak body weight, body fat's high, you're cramming food, your motivation may be starting to decline, but you then switch gears and do a 4 week, let's see how lean I can get in 4 weeks. And it's a nice refresher. And I mean, from a nutrition standpoint, it resensitizes your body. Insulin sensitivity will go back up, digestion improves. I mean, it's a win-win.
Right.
And it's important. It's really a mental thing, because I mean, you can only push so far, eating 6,000 calories a day, being full all the time, like falling asleep every time you sit down, you know, like, but having those little periods where you're like, okay, I'm gonna switch goals now. It gives you a nice short-term goal,
right? To
really push yourself in a different way.
Yeah. That's kind of exactly what I'm doing right now. Like I was kind of starting to get burnt out on, like in that phase of getting really burnt out. And I realized that it had been 3 years since I did my last cut. So I started talking to Chris, and I was like, why don't we, like, once gyms open back up, why don't we do a hard cut? Like I'm going to do a show. And that's where the YouTube came from, is like, instead of, cause I'm not going to give that money to the NPC right now when I've got a fucking kid on the way. So like now the motivation is not a show. It's just to document this and to show people like what it takes to just get that lean. Like people are already coming up to me talking about like, oh man, you're leaning out already. You look super lean. It's like, okay, talk to me in 15 pounds and then we'll see. We'll see what you think lean is. So yeah, it's been really cool to like shift my mind, because I told friends this, like, I feel like a bodybuilder again. Like, I feel like going to the grocery store, there's a purpose. Going to the gym, there's a purpose. Waking up and doing cardio, there's a purpose. Like, it's really fired me back up, and it really has pushed me along. I know that most people I talk to, I'm sure you can attest to this as well. Once you find bodybuilding and you find the consistency and the commitment and the dedication to it and how much it takes to do bodybuilding, have you seen that kind of bleed into the rest of your life and like what you're trying to do outside of just the gym?
I mean, definitely the rest of my life as it pertains to bodybuilding, like my education outside of the gym, like I'm constantly just, you know, reading forums, listening to podcasts, trying to learn as much as I can. That would help me, in my pursuit, because I do want to bodybuild. Like it is what I'm chasing. I do want to take bodybuilding as far as I can. But definitely, I have clients too. So, I mean, all that knowledge has helped me with my business with my clients and helping them get the most out of their goals. So, I mean, it pretty much every time I'm not in the gym, I'm trying to learn something that would help me in the world of bodybuilding,
Right. Speaking of your clients, bro, Angel,
right?
what the fuck, dude? He's made crazy. Yeah, dude, he's made crazy progress. That doesn't make any sense. How much does he weigh?
Yeah. He doesn't understand the genetics he has. And he's 230.
He's 230?
230 up from 6 months ago. I started doing his training and everything. He was 180.
Jesus.
230, same body fat.
That's crazy.
Like,
I saw
he's
him
wild, man.
I saw him put up that. Huh?
He is strong as hell.
I know. I was just about to say. I saw him put up that ego video of him lifting the 175 pound dumbbells on flat bench, and I was like, "Ow!" Like that would hurt my feelings a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I thought I was doing something with the 130s, and then he's busting out. I was like, I had to talk myself off a ledge on that one and be like, it's flat bench. He's cheating. Like I had to poke holes in it a little bit just to make myself feel better.
Yeah, he's a beast, man. He's gonna go so far because, like,
for sure.
From a supplementation standpoint too, he hasn't done anything yet.
Yeah, I mean that's he cracks me up though with his post.
He's a clown. He's always trolling people. Yeah,
dude, all the time, and it's so because it gets me too. I'm like, wow, that's bold. He put up that fucking violent test, and then like a few slides later, it was like, it wasn't mine. Fuck off.
I messaged him immediately. I was like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah, I know. I was gonna do the same thing. Like, why? And then I saw that, and I was like, oh, okay, you got me. Okay. That's so funny, dude. Is he trying to do a show or anything? Like what I'm
gonna coach him into his first show. Yeah, we're gonna both compete at the same time next year.
Okay. What show are you doing?
I think one of Quincy's.
Yeah.
Probably Muscle Elite. Yeah.
Fun. Quincy.
Hey. Quincy.
Sorry. But man, I do you know like early shows or late shows? Do you know? I know like the schedule's not out, but would you rather do one like in November, December?
Later in the year. Yeah. Because I'm about to get that surgery for my hernia.
Oh, really?
Middle of July. So that's going to put me out 6 weeks, and then it's just not enough time for me. Not enough time that I would want to.
Had one for years.
Yeah, I would keep it, but it bugs me. I feel it, and I can feel it kind of slowly getting worse and worse.
Yeah, I don't feel mine. Like it's gotten bigger over the years, but it doesn't hurt.
Yours is a little higher, right?
Yeah, it's like right.
Mine's right at my belly button. So there's already a natural opening there anyways. Yeah. So like any kind of like heavy bracing, I immediately feel it, and I got to get it fixed because I can't train like confidently knowing it's there.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't look like it's affected your strength that much.
I have a little thing. I have like a hernia disc that I wear with a waist trainer and then a chic belt under my shirt so that you don't see. So that makes me feel a lot more secure. But
yeah, for sure. Yeah. I understand that completely. What have you had? I know you said you took out deadlifts and squats. Is that right?
Yeah. Everything else though is pretty much the same except for on leg days. Everything switched to single leg just to avoid really heavy bracing. So now all leg presses are single leg. Dumbbell split squats are a big one instead of normal squats. That's really the only change I've had to make. Luckily, using that thing and using the belt, right. I've been able to train pretty much everything else like I want to. So like the barbell row that I normally do, I haven't really changed my split much. I've just modified the things that I already do. So a barbell row is now a seal row or chest supported row. Yeah. A squat is now a dumbbell split squat. Yeah. Leg press is now single leg press. That's really the only changes.
Yeah, sure. That's smart. That's definitely smart. It reduces the load, and then you don't have to.
And it's never a bad, like doing single leg things is never going to hurt you. If anything, it's just going to improve symmetry on my legs. So
yeah, and then when you come back to the unilateral stuff, or the bilateral stuff, you'll start crushing that stuff. I've been doing a lot of the Bulgarian split squats with the band. Did you see that yesterday? I put it.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
I like that better than the dumbbell just because I feel like I get a better contraction against it.
Yeah, it picks up load as you go up.
Right. So I've just been doing it more as just kind of extra volume and like a pump set, just to get the muscle nice and full with blood after I've already done like my failure stuff. So like yesterday I did legs too. I know you and Walker did legs, but I always start off with like some type of activation exercise. So I started with leg extensions, high volume, 15 reps, just really squeezing the muscle, nowhere near failure, just contraction, and then into the reverse band hack squats. And they're like, I wasn't really
That's a favorite, yeah.
Oh yeah, dude, I love the hack squat, and that elite FTS one that I've been using at Metroflex is a motherfucker because. Yeah, I mean, I know I'm coming down in weight right now and calories are lower, but I cannot get past 5 plates. It has been kicking me in the face every time. But I wasn't really feeling it when I first got to the gym yesterday. So instead of doing kind of the similar thing you do with your 2 top sets, I would normally on a failure day would do like activation sets where I do like 5 or 6 reps. Slowly going from weight to that top set where then I give the full maximal effort, right?
Yeah.
Yesterday I did 10s all the way, which is normally not what I do. So I was a lot more exhausted by the time I got to the 5, but I had to ask the guy to fucking help me get out of it because I've been passed out. I was pushing and like I started to get light and I was like, oh, help me. And then went into the leg press after that, and that's where I went higher reps. So I went 15, or supposed to be 15. I can't fucking count. I looked back at the videos, and they were 13s. I was like, Jesus Christ. But what about cardio? Are you doing any cardio right now in your off season?
Yeah, I do cardio every day fasted. Even at like peak off season, I do every day. We have a bike in the living room. I just bike for 20, 30 minutes. Yeah. I mean, I notice a huge improvement in hunger and digestion throughout the day. Like rather than just if you're on an off season, you're just waking up and first thing, just stuff a huge meal. It's just you're going to feel full and bloated for the whole day. But if you, get some work done, get your heart rate up and get hungry first, you'll notice it throughout the whole day. It makes everything better. Yeah. And it keeps you leaner too. I mean, it's nice.
Yeah, I agree. And that's kind of similar. When I just came off of this bulking phase or whatever you want to call it, we were doing no cardio, but typically that's how I would do it as well, is do just a little bit in the morning, just any time of the day, really. I would walk the dog further. It just, like you said, it helps out with that digestion when you're eating these huge meals. I mean, it's almost impossible to get all that food in without trying to be active, but at the same time being tired because they're eating so much fucking food.
and then trying to stay as still as possible so you don't burn more, so you have to eat more.
Right. Yeah, you're still trying to gain weight, so you don't want to fucking burn too much. But
let me let the dog out real quick. Hold on one second.
Wow. Come here. Say hey. Hi, people. Say hi. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
So I was going to ask you, what has it been like since Liv turned pro? How has her stuff been? Like, it still doesn't even register that she's turned pro. Like
am I jealous? Is that what you're asking?
No, not at all. I'm saying, like, how have you been able to help her with like training and being a pro and that kind of stuff? Like, what has that been like? That more so that I'm not worried about you being jealous.
No, I'm just kidding. Training. I mean, I help her do a lot of her training. She just recently started, a few months ago, started training the way I do. Because she always she has crazy genetics, man. She can go in and just just lift however, and just like she's huge.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I mean, I just recently started getting her on a strict program where she's logging all her lifts, tracking them, hitting the same, like beating her numbers every week, and she's just getting so strong, man. And so I've been kind of doing her training a little bit,
dude.
And as far as diet, I mean, she has a coach, but they're having some problems right now. So I'm just helping her. I mean, she knows enough to kind of do it on her own where she's at, because she plans on competing in 13 weeks or something. So she's in a fine spot for where she is. So she's just kind of doing her own diet at this point. And I'm kind of helping her, looking at pictures in the morning and blah, blah, blah. But I mean, we kind of always, we're just kind of bouncing off each other, like, with our own stuff. Like I run all my changes by her. She runs all her changes by me. And that's just how we operate.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's definitely cool to see that y'all have been able to do that, because a lot of times couples who like train together and stuff, it starts to get weird,
Yeah, it's so hard to make a normal relationship work if they're not if they don't understand the lifestyle,
For sure. But I mean, it was so cool to see her do. Which North Carolina show did she do?
The state show.
Yeah, she did states, won that, and then went to junior nationals, right?
Immediately pro card. Yeah.
I mean, it was just mind-boggling that she did that so quickly.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, I mean, her genetics are insane, so it'll be really cool to see her get on a pro stage. You said she's trying to compete in 13 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I think it's the Battle in the Desert is the one she's aiming for.
Where is that?
In Arizona. Arizona, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay. You won't be too far. Come through Texas.
Yeah, we'll come by and see you. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool, man. I'm excited to see her get up there. I mean,
me too.
I'll definitely have to talk to her about getting her on here as well, because I mean,
she's like, ladies need to come, because all
Sure.
the stuff we're talking about like hardcore training and blah blah blah. She trains the same, man. She trains just as hard, a lot harder than a lot of the guys I know. So that'd be a great perspective for like women to watch and hear, because they think that you don't need to be doing the kickbacks on the cable and stuff, man. Train the same as guys do. Train hard. There's nothing, you're not going to get masculine about it. I mean, that's the way to progress, and she would be a great one to have on here.
Yeah.
Talk about how she trains. And
I mean, she puts most guys to shame on like some of the lifts that she does. Like some of them make me feel bad. I'm like,
yeah.
Jesus.
There's a few shoulder machines. There's a few shoulder machines where I'll see her top set. And I'm like, that's like, you're getting a little close. Like,
I think I think I'm going to start rotating my split here. I'm going to do one of these other ones. It's a little harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anytime she's within like a plate or two of me, I'm like, something's going on.
Oh, I didn't like that one today. I think I'm going to have to take it out of rotation.
Yeah.
That's funny, but it's been cool to see both of y'all come up through this, because I mean, y'all have literally done it together since I've known you. How long have y'all been together?
Over 3 years now.
Yeah. So I mean, y'all have been dating since I met y'all, and the progress that y'all have made in that amount of time has been ridiculous, and I would definitely attribute it to that mindset and the attitude that y'all have towards training. And I think that's, like we said earlier, just people miss that. They don't go in to train. They want the end result, but they don't want to do the work that gets the end result. They're not willing to put that effort in. Me and my buddy Gunner were talking about that yesterday, where people just want to get shredded, or they want to have abs on the beach, and they feel like they can do it in 30 days, and they come to us like freaking out because they've got 30 days now to get lean, and we're like, well, it's going to take this amount of,
and then, should have come to me 3 years ago so we could start working on your base.
Yeah,
it takes years, man. It really does.
People don't understand like how long it takes to do this. And I mean, even where I am, it's been a better half of a decade now. I mean, I've had some setbacks with the shoulder and other things along the way, but I mean, it's still taken this amount of time to even get to where I am now. It just happened this year or last year, and that's part of what this channel is about, and what just the business in general is about. Is the reason I named it The Long Haul Fitness is because I plan on doing this for the rest of my life in certain manner, and it's a matter of like adapting it as the years come along, and like I mean, there's people like Randy Rettinger who are in their 60s still bodybuilding, you know, and you can still do this stuff and still train intensely and still make progress if you're smart about it and you're doing it properly. So how do you feel like you are creating longevity with your bodybuilding career?
It's hard to say, man, because that's not something I ever have to think about. Like, motivation is never an issue. Like, I love it. Like, I don't see myself ever not loving it. And for the time being, I'm just gonna, give it everything I have. As far as longevity, I mean, the most important thing is, being smart with your choices, staying injury free. I mean, those are the big ones. If you want to be doing this for a long time, just, make sure you're educated on everything, every supplement that you feel like taking, nutritional choices, training choices, research, man. Don't just think that you're learning enough on social media and forums to, you have all the information now to make good choices. I mean, if you need to hire a coach from the beginning, then do it. If that's what it takes to, get the knowledge that you need. Because, I mean, smart choices it's not going to, when you're young, it's not going to seem like much, but later on when you're, 30, 40, they'll catch up with you if you make bad choices now.
Exactly. I think a lot more people need to invest in a coach or a trainer. I mean, when I started this thing, I picked a shitty coach, but I still picked a coach because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have the knowledge to take myself into a show. So I definitely think that that's a big one there, is having someone who can tell you, okay, this is how we should train with where you're at in your fitness journey. And then this is how we can move it along and progress it. Because I feel like most beginners want to hit the ground running and try to do everything that you do, and end up like they might make some progress for a little bit of time, but then they stall out or get injured or they burn out. Whereas, like you said in the beginning, minimal, as little as possible to get the max amount of results.
Yeah.
So there's this mentality that more is better, when technically the opposite is true. It's just a matter of what you're putting into what you choose, Yeah.
I mean, everything has to be progressive, man. Like, training has to be progressive. So if you start with like crazy high volume, trying to train like Ronnie Coleman, then how are you going to go up from there? Same thing with supplementation. If you start off with, crazy choices regarding, that kind of stuff that you take,
right, where
are you going to go up from there? If you have to make those crazy, like use those crazy numbers to get to 200 pounds, when you want to get to 250, man, you're fucked. Like it has to be, small, smart choices progressively every year.
Yep.
And that's really the only way to do it.
That's a hard pill to swallow for most people. They want to be able, they want to do everything at once so they can get all the results at once. And it's like, no, that's not how that's going to work. You might make some progress doing that, but at some point you're going to get hurt, or you're going to burn out, or whatever something's going to happen. And at some point it's not going to be sustainable. So the big thing is finding a way to make this lifestyle sustainable for yourself. I don't give a fuck what diet you do. I don't care what you do. That's your choice. Yeah. It's a matter of what you stick to and what you can
you stick to it? Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And that goes with training, that goes with nutrition, that goes with supplements, that's everything. It's what can you do that fits in your lifestyle now? Because most people are not going to be able to make a massive life change and do all these things at once. They might do it for a short period of time, like we always see people do, but they're going to burn out. So yeah, I mean, that would be my biggest advice to anyone listening who's a beginner, is just start with as little as possible with the basics and try to get strong. Yeah. That's it. I mean,
that'll take you way further than man. Like, I mean, even just regarding like, bro splits versus push-pull legs, you don't need a bro split until you're huge. Like, I don't think people realize that. Like, you don't need like that kind of specificity with your training until you have a significant amount of muscle. So if you start off doing, arm day, chest day, shoulder day, back day, you're wasting a lot of time. Whereas if you could do, push-pull legs and just get strong at basic movements, hitting them twice a week, then that's going to get you a lot further. Because, I mean, the compounds are what builds best. So, one movement, doing a dip, doing a bench press, things where you're working, 3-4 muscle groups at a time, getting strong at that is going to, add on a lot more tissue than, doing concentration curls and cable kickbacks and stuff.
again, yeah, going back to that whole thing of the weird angles and stuff. It's like
Yeah.
there's no point in doing weird angles if you don't have the muscle, period.
Yeah.
If you have a chest, why are you trying to work on your lower chest? Like you need to work on your entire chest.
You can't identify weak areas until you have a developed physique, you know?
Exactly, for sure. And then that's when you can get defined and kind of chisel things down. And I know JP, Jordan Peters, for people who don't know, I'm referencing. I mean, he even says the beginner should start off with a full body routine, that 3 or 4 times a week. But I think the difficult part for people with something like that is the amount of intensity that you would need in each of those workouts. I don't think people would understand and be able to control.
Right.
Like I would have a hard time. So if I was doing full body stuff and I did like bench press, barbell row, hack squat, and those were my movements on that day, I would have a hard time just doing that one movement for each thing and feeling like I did something, you know? So I think I would agree with the push-pull legs. And I mean, bro split, I've made a lot of progress on a bro split. So, I mean, I can't talk.
You can make a lot of progress. I've done a bro split, but I mean, when I look back and see how much muscle I was putting on doing that versus how much muscle I've put on in the past 2 years, it's crazy difference. It's night and day.
For sure. So for anybody starting right now, what kind of advice would you give them for starting out?
Starting off bodybuilding or starting off just like weight loss?
Bodybuilding. I mean, that's definitely today's focus.
I mean, just prepare yourself for, long-term work. I mean, don't expect to have a crazy physique in a year. Don't even think about drugs yet. Don't even think about any of that kind of stuff. Just, set your workouts, start simple as you possibly can, pick basic lifts, keep your sessions small, short, and track everything. Yep. That's the most important thing, because if you're like tracking the training is what will dictate your nutrition. And that's just, you have to track everything. So, I mean, the first thing you need to do is get a sense of what you're eating and then track your training. And then from there, I mean, those are the 2 variables that affect everything. So, I mean, if you notice your recovery is weak, then maybe nutrition needs to change, volume needs to come down. But I mean, you have no idea what to do unless you're tracking. So, I mean, a logbook and a calorie tracker, those are key tools for anybody starting out. Yep.
I mean, the biggest thing that I would say is just make it as basic as possible. It's not going to be exciting. It's not going to be these cool, crazy workouts you see on Instagram, but it's going to be the shit that gets results. It's like, that's why the basics are the basics. And then once you've got those down is when you can get into the little subtle nuances of like the extras, people want the extras, but they want the dessert and the toppings on the dessert, but they don't want the meat and potatoes. They want to go in and do their crazy chest pump circuit and think they're going to have the biggest chest ever. And it's like, it's not going to work. You're going to look really cool in the gym for the 30 minutes you're there because your chest is going to puff up and everything. But then when you leave and that blood goes away, it's going to go right back to where it was.
That's the thing with pump training is like, you go in there, training super high volume, supersets, blah, blah, blah. And it feels like you're just working your ass off. It feels like you're working hard, but if you're not progressing linearly on paper, then you don't know if you're actually making any progress. There's no quantifiable progress being made. So you can't train by feel unless you're just a genetic freak like Dexter Jackson or those types that can just go in and, pump and grow. There has to be tracking. There has to be, quantifiable progress every week or you're not growing. It's as simple as that.
Yep, for sure. So go ahead and plug like whatever social media you have. Unless you got anything else, anything you want to say?
That's good, man. Yeah.
Okay.
That's covered all my favorite spots.
All right. What's your Instagram? I know that's pretty much where you do most of your stuff.
Yeah. Instagram is bpfit_training. And then I'll be starting a YouTube soon after my surgery and documenting the comeback from that. And that'll be a good thing for beginners to see, because I'll literally be starting at, ground zero and showing how to make a program, how to set your nutrition and all that. Yeah. And I'll be documenting that like pretty much weekly.
Yeah, that'll be really cool, man. I'll definitely definitely subscribe and follow along with that. But your ground zero is everyone else's like level, like the 100th floor. So yeah, you've got a little
I mean,
bit.
that's why it's so important, is because there's nothing different. Like I do the same thing. Like I set my nutrition in the same way, and I set my training in the same way, and anybody can look at that and say, okay, that's a good idea for how to set your starting point.
Right. Yeah. And the thing, like, I think people oftentimes will look at somebody like you and the way you train, and they're like, oh, I'm not that strong, I can't do that. And it's like, it doesn't, the weight's relative. The weight doesn't matter.
Yeah, weight is totally relative. But my barbell rowing 4 plates feels the exact same as 1 plate does for you. Like, it doesn't feel any different.
Exactly. So like if 135 is your max set for 10, but next week you do 140 or 145, like that's progress. It doesn't matter.
Effort is everything. Yeah.
Exactly. So like regardless of weight and where you start and whatnot, like you can still make progress.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Last little signing off notes there. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time.